Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another episode of What's Next. Tonight, I think we might just have 30 minutes, but it might be a very, very hot and interesting 30 minutes of What's Next. I'm joined once again by, I am firstly the Utah chairman to the Progressive Empowerment Party, as well as the shadow member of Parliament for Laventille East Movement, and I'm joined by Precious Cruikshank, who will give her whole title tonight.
Good night, Mr. David Welch. Good night, the people of Trinidad and Tobago and everyone who is viewing at our live tonight. My name is Precious Cruikshank, and I am the chairman of the women's arm of the Progressive Empowerment Party. Good night, David.
Nice. So we, again, I don't know if to give people history again on what's next, or whether or not we should just dive right into what we have in store for you, the viewers that are viewing right now.
Yeah.
And as we always do for every episode, this is the 7th episode of What's Next.
Yes, our 7th episode.
We always look at what our newspaper gives, and the front page of our newspaper, at least the Daily Express, is this, gas release. All right. Now, I saw, and I have a clip from CNC3 News tonight with school violence once again plaguing Trinidad and Tobago, especially school fights. And but I don't think we're gonna go into any of that tonight. All right. So we're gonna down the newspapers tonight, Trinidad and Tobago, because
we're gonna drop it tonight, guys. We have something even better.
The director gonna be vexed. So he just say every time you buy a newspaper, does end up ripping it up. Director, we're dropping the newspaper tonight. We're not using the newspaper tonight, because we have our very own news right here in studio tonight. And once again, we're in the head office of the Progressive Empowerment Party. And this, we celebrated, what is it?
6 years
of our anniversary, the Progressive Empowerment
Last
Party.
Saturday.
6 years of creating trending stories across Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
And when I say trending stories, I don't mean like just fun and games.
Correct.
I mean serious issues, serious issues that our parliamentarians are not dealing with. And the seriousness of this show called What's Next, I mean, it's in the title. What next is going to happen in Trinidad and Tobago?
Exactly.
I can tell you for a fact, the next big thing to touch Trinidad and Tobago will be the Progressive Empowerment Party gaining the reins of government come 2025. The best person to talk about that, the man who has been fighting the fight across Trinidad and Tobago, even when I was a little atom growing up, the man that has been fighting the fight, the only person to take Trinidad and Tobago out of the mess that it is in, the man that put 11 shadow MPs in various constituencies and plan to fill all 41 in both Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
The political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Philip Edward Alexander. Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
We met Precious long distance. Thanks for the short notice and the quick and the lovely introduction. I want to quote Paulo Kernahan when he said, "We get in so many rapid press conferences that varying all over the road. One day we get better days are coming.
Yes.
Then a week later, things were bad. Take me a bell. Then things looking up. Then brace for dark days. It getting so you don't know if they drink champagne or Gramazone."
I mean,
Indeed.
that is true, because on January 1st, the Prime Minister, just Keith Christopher, will come out to say better days ahead for Trinidad and Tobago.
But don't forget Colm. When Colm came after the budget and told us, well, all of the bad days are behind us, we've turned the corner, the economy is bubbling. Because all of our good days and bad days are predicated on the budget. It's not like we care about murder, 601 people or 607 people dead, and that didn't affect the country. So it's obviously just the money. So if the money good, we good, apparently. And Colm was the first one to start that. Things looking up, we turned the corner, everything nice. And then the Prime Minister said things was going to be tough. And then they had a press conference, no, he was wrong, things good again. And now we're back to this. And how is any of that leadership? How is any of that leadership? I watch your headline and it talking about the Dragon gas field. And anybody with half a brain would know that that's not news for Trinidad. By the time you get around to developing anything out of that gas field, it's 4 years past, 5 years past. And what is happening here is the United States of America is using Trinidad as a bridge to get Venezuela back in their books. So it's giving is a carrot in front of Maduro's face. You want to be back to being in the good books of the Western world? Come on board. So they're just using Trinidad. At the end of the day, this is not our gas field. And when Venezuela and America hug up again, Trinidad serves no purpose. We are at a point where, not even 7 days ago, he told us we have 10 years of gas, if so much.
Yeah.
Gas running the country right now, and we have 10 years of gas. After that, brace for hard times. So I was assuming the next press conference he called would have been to say, our economy, we've been deficit financing for the past 10 years. We're going to diversify. We have no choice. We need you to, when you tell people to band your belly, tighten your belt, brace, you have to also tell them, this is what we're going to try to do to get through it. It's not like just brace and we suck it and see.
Correct.
Well, he did say that we will have to fend for ourselves in layman terms, sir. But a real opposition in this instance would have recognized exactly what you're saying. This is Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was the one, and I know because I also used to talk about it when I was an activist. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar was the one to always battle Dragon Gas deal and drag hydraulic for dancing with Maduro or bringing sanctioned persons into Trinidad. We're going to bypass all of that. We're going to forget that all of that ever happened, and the people of this country are going to just remember Dragon Gas deal. That's it. That's all we're going to care about.
And that's the point, because first and foremost, by the time that Dragon Gas deal starts to earn money, because you still have to develop it. It's not developed yet. It's not like it's a tap to turn on. Yeah. They have to do all the drilling and all the pipe work, and they have to deploy barges, because right now it's a sanctioned country. And what people need to understand, what that means is that Venezuela is free to trade with Russia, China, Iran, and the rest of the axis of evil. But they can't, according to America, but they can't trade with anybody that America trades with. Now, it's not like America will declare physical war and start to bomb you yet. But what they can do is cause you economic turmoil by interrupting your ability to trade in the world, in the Western world that you're accustomed to trading. So, with the whole bacchanal with Ukraine affecting the price of gas and the price of oil and global shipping and all the rest of the drama, America wants to keep the price of gas and oil down, because gas and oil runs America. And while they're willing to tear up the Alaskan wilderness and exploit the oil and gas there, they want to leave that for a last resort. Right now they want to control world supply. And just saying that's how it is. They set the prices. And getting Venezuelan gas back in their fold is a positive for Biden. So he could project in his midterms a decrease in the price of energy. Because the world is panicking for energy. That's why all these electric cars and all the rest of the drama is happening. We suspect that something is behind it, but it's mostly an anticipated energy crunch that's coming. Venezuela, now the numbers say that Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia and gas, but there are other people whose numbers say it differently. So it's either the first or the second largest amount. You can't discount it in a situation that requires you to get as much volume as possible to lower your price. That said, from Trinidad's perspective, our role here, now we've been in America's bad books, because we've been dancing with Maduro when it was sanctioned.
Correct.
Now that it is unsanctioned, doesn't mean that we weren't slapping America in the face. And America was saying that. An outgoing ambassador to Trinidad had said as much. You remember that, right? And he had said as much that this is not a country that America should take seriously, because Trinidad doesn't understand how the Western world works. That said, this now opportunity maybe gives Trinidad an opportunity to mend fences with America a little bit, but it still doesn't do anything for our economy. Our economy is damaged badly, and to the point where some people are starting to say, this has to be deliberate. This cannot be accidental. You cannot be that stupid. We have so many economists, so many bright people, that they can't be watching Trinidad. We're not just going to hit the Titanic, we're steering into it. We're turning the wheel and making sure we hit it. If this was the Titanic analogy, we wouldn't broadside it, we would hit it head on. The cost of living in Trinidad right now for the vast majority of people is decimating the middle class and turning all of the lower classes into working poor. I actually know people who have jobs but no home. They have nowhere to live. There are people who live and sleep on the benches around the savannah. There are people who sleep in cars. They have a car and they live in the car. There are people who live in by other people, sleeping on the couch. They have a job. Some of them may have 2 jobs. The cost of living in the country is so ridiculous, and there's so many things driving it. You're talking real estate. Real estate is affected by the drug trade, narco trafficking, money laundering. A lot of the corruption, a lot of the money that was stolen from Trinidad, trillions of dollars. What didn't get out of Trinidad was buried in real estate, was buried in land, and it was buried in houses. And in the early 2000s, there was a mad rush of buildings in the West, and those buildings and townhouses, a lot of them empty still. Bayside Towers was empty for years, years. They couldn't get people to get one, and people started to buy up these townhouses and these properties cash, to the point where there are people in this country who can't afford a home, but there are people who own 500 properties, and that's their portfolio. It's not that they're in the real estate business. That's just where their money lying down. Yeah. But there is something called supply and demand. And we've been talking about food and food prices and local prices as opposed to foreign prices.
Yeah.
And PNM supporters talking to us about supply and demand as if they understand supply and demand. And I want them to understand it from our position in real estate. If you buy up all the houses, I can't buy a house. And if I can't buy a house, or if 10 of us want a house and there's only one house for sale, like where Starlight Drugs is in Marava, the real estate agent who was selling the 4 or 5 houses that were there said to me, that was the first time I ever experienced a bidding war that took us to a point where the price was times higher than what the original sellers were asking for it. Supply and demand in real estate is what is affecting the price of real estate. Real estate prices in Trinidad. You look at a house in Westmoreland, a townhouse in Westmoreland, that sells for $3.5 million, $4 million, mostly because of location, because they don't have $200,000 worth of material in the house. A Westmoreland townhouse today, when it was built, by I was saying it was about $30,000 to build it. That's what it was built. It was built with gypsum and PVC outside, and it was a cheap, low-income house. That's what Westmoreland started as. But because of security and crime, and a certain sector of society went to live there, people who know each other, create a middle-class community, so they were able to spend some money and develop it better, fine. But the value of those properties have nothing to do with what is in the properties. The average person in Trinidad, and I go so far as to tell you, there are people who are working in banks who can't buy a house.
Correct.
So you see hard times ahead just as Keith Rowley predicted hard times ahead then?
Our hard times that have been coming, all the left, right, Keith Rowley has been doing good times, good times, all been nonsense. Call me, but has been lying. The country has no real business plan. Nobody knows. There is nobody. You could bring on a panel and you could bring every economist of name, every past minister of finance, every wannabe political leader, put them all on a table and ask them to describe what is the business of Trinidad and Tobago. You could name any country in the world and I could tell you what their business is, what their core business is, and how they earn their income to run their country.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what Trinidad is.
Well, it should be oil and gas. You said
that's what they say
earlier in your whole statement here that Trinidad and Tobago does not know how the Western world operates. Is it that we don't know or we choose not to operate with the Western world?
I think that the people who are behind this PNM government have been taking bribes from China through Venezuela.
Because the Prime Minister stood up in Parliament, and I know that you would remember, and he said that we don't do what the United States say. The United States is a thing of the past and China is a thing of the future. She pulled up an article here only a couple of days ago, weeks ago on the show, because it's every week we do the show. And she showed how China is we borrowed.
Trading. We have been trading $1 billion US with China.
And that's a recent article.
That makes the point. That makes the point. Why would you go so far away from your traditional alliances? Why? Trinidad is wrapped up in the Western world. We should have been taking advantage of where we are, but we've never had the leadership to understand. So it was an easier thing to prostitute ourselves to China. Now, China's Belt and Road empire expansion strategy is basically to just get a bigger footprint so they could compete with America however they could. Because China wants to be the second world power to America. But Trinidad and Tobago didn't need to risk all of that. Where we are in the world, and I'd use Norway as an example. Norway understood the way Guyana understands, and I hope, because I know Guyana is a terribly corrupt country, just like Trinidad. You can't get away from that. They've been known for that. Like most of the Caribbean islands that got, most of the Caribbean territories that got quick independence when the British decided they had enough of it, y'all all go. Because that's how we ended up with independence. There was no big fight for independence. All of y'all just get out. So all the Caribbean countries ended up with people copying each other, with prime ministers copying each other's work how to thief. And PNM had the biggest amount of thief because we found oil and gas. So the supporters and the financiers and the investors, the speculators and the backers of the PNM made off with a lot of money. Johnny O'Halloran and these people, you can't count their money. There's speculation that Eric Williams' daughter is one of the richest women in the world. There's no way for me to tell you until we get inside and track down the money, because you could do the accounts of this country starting September 1st, 1962, and you could put all the threads back together and find where our money went and who stole it. You could actually put it together. That's what forensic accounting is. And from then to now, you could piece everything back together. But you look at Norway. Norway saw the destruction of an economy by oil and gas. And when they got oil and gas, they got oil and gas late. They got that money late, and they made a promise. In fact, they made a policy that their oil and gas money would not be spent. And they just banked all, and they invested all. And the country built itself around that. China did the opposite. Stole all the money. But Norway was able, Singapore, have no oil and gas. On services alone, Singapore is first world, developed. Its economy eclipsed America pre-COVID. Just before COVID, it was listed as the most competitive economy in the world. Singapore, a country a little bigger than Tobago. It's a third the size of Trinidad. That's what you're talking about. We talk about Singapore. We're not talking about China. And still there are 5 million people, 5.2 million people. Trinidad is underpopulated, underdeveloped, no plan. We have no economy. This is not an economy. This is one big carpet bagging hustle. Money in, share it out, spend it, bite off, see what you can get and run. That's how the country runs.
Sounds so.
Look at Napa.
Sounds just like it.
Look at Napa and Sapa.
Yeah.
When Patrick Manning built Napa and Sapa, how long ago was that? 15 years? How long are they there now? Where is the plan to use Napa and Sapa?
There's no plan for sports in Trinidad.
Absolutely not.
To that. Because $1.3 billion is Napa and Sapa. And I don't know of any orchestras being trained, any artists, any acting. I don't have any plays. I don't have nothing. Napa and Sapa. So you can say COVID, nothing happened in COVID, fine. But 15 years before. Look at Brian Lara Stadium. It is called the Brian Lara Academy. Academy for what?
Right. Exactly.
So what? Is the Brian Lara Winding Academy?
Yes.
Who is learning cricket there?
Exactly so.
Listen, we're carrying our crafts of carnival to these places.
To these,
right?
yeah.
That is
1.2
what we
billion.
have.
So that's 2.6 billion. Napa, Sapa, and the tsunami shelter. Brian Lara Tsunami Academy. Those three things was sold to the public as this is why we created a University of Trinidad and Tobago that was just to steal money. It's done, it's broken, it's bankrupt, it's gone. But it was just to steal money. Napa was to steal money, Sapa was to steal money. When Keith Rowley stood up in the parliament and he said, I went to the Prime Minister in August 2003 and told him about massive bid rigging and corruption taking place. He was talking about Napa, Sapa, and Brian Lara Stadium. That's what he was, and the Tobago Hospital. That's what he was talking about. And all those campuses that were built in town. Trinidad has no vision for itself. It has no leadership. And you all as young politicians and people coming up in the country, you must hold on, you must enunciate, you must craft a vision and hold on to it. Your vision must be based on, how do I make this country better by my being involved? A progressive empowerment party policy to decentralize Port of Spain, the government offices out of Port of Spain, will fix so many things. It will end traffic.
Yes.
The 250,000 people that get stuck in traffic morning and evening, that and they build all those flyovers for. I mean, Coleman them run amok building flyover in Aranguez and flyover by Grand Bazaar. We would not need none of that. All of that is money wasted. All of the Taruba and all of that money wasted. Just waste money. They waste money in all those campuses in town. Those should have been built in the center of the island. You should have found the geographical center of Trinidad and Tobago and built a government campus that could take care of everything that had to be centralized. And there are things that have to be centralized, including your Hall of Justice and your finance administration, your police administration. You could have centralized all of that and built all the Ministry of Education and all those other centralized offices around it. Yeah. And then you could have invited the private sector to build a commercial and a residential city around it. But you just had to build 4 roads to the 4 corners of Trinidad. And everybody who's spending 2 and 3 hours to get to work now in Port of Spain would have get there in 20 minutes. Would have get to work in 20 minutes. Because you were doing it in the modern era, you could have built it green. You could have built all powered by renewable energy. You could have built all the buildings with access to daycare in the building.
Yes.
You could have provided lockers for workers and showers in the bathrooms, so people could have come to work running, they could have come to work cycling, they could have come to work walking, and then go in their locker and like a gym, change and go to work, and then change later and run back home, promoting a healthier lifestyle. You could have done all of those things. There was so much that we could have done, and instead we built those cheap Chinese tin and plastic nonsense buildings in Port of Spain.
How long would it take for a progressive empowerment party to do that?
To build those buildings?
To centralize?
Napa,
or decentralize?
Napa, Sapa, all of those things weren't designed for Trinidad, you know. They have architectural firms all over the world that have rooms of plans. You want a bridge? You want a building? You want a mall? You want an airport? What do you want? Come and see what we have. Send me some sketches, because they've done them all. All you need is, this one will need 4 acres, this one will need 17 acres. If you want to do it, this is kind of, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? So if you want to build government buildings, if you want to build a government campus, you just have to know, you just have to do a needs assessment. How many people am I catering for? What's the access? That kind of stuff. If you're talking access, it should have been built with handicapped access. We spoke about making sure that you hold back a lot of the jobs that are seated jobs for people who are confined to wheelchairs, because otherwise they're just as bright as anybody else. They're just not walking. So if you're going to be sitting in a chair all day, it might as be somebody who is naturally sitting in a chair all day. So you give them hope and opportunity too. A lot of these things could have been dovetailed. To ask how long you could build that city, you could build that city in a year. If you have a plan, 1 year. Realistically, in a 5-year term, you could do these things. These things can happen simultaneously.
Yes.
You could build and open. It would happen in tranches, but you could build and open in 5 years. All the government offices and the Hall of Justice, Police Administration, Revenue Authority, Board of Inland Revenue, National Insurance Board, everything, immigration, all of those things could come out of Port of Spain to this. You could begin the process of building residential communities, and you could do those with real estate developers, so you're creating opportunity for them, putting the construction sector back to work. That could happen. We could move the port of Spain out of Port of Spain in a year. That is quick time, because it's just one big massive car park. That's what a port is. A port is just a massive space where you could stack containers, and you could move containers around. A place for cranes to operate effectively. Point Lisas is already deep, and if we need to deepen it, that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, this is what could be done in 5 years. You could move the government business campus out of Port of Spain into a new city in the center of Trinidad and Tobago. You could move the port of Port of Spain. If those two things happen, you could play football on Wrightson Road at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So question, could be or would be done by the Progressive Empowerment Party in fact?
It will generate so much business. It will generate so much employment. It will generate so much opportunity. The economy would bubble, and you would be able to telegraph that we are going to do this. So people who are artisans, who are craftsmen. We have this guy who is a senior member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Lakshman Ramrup, and he owns a company that manufactures all of those embellishings that you put on buildings and like gingerbread design and fancy doors. We have people like that you could, so there are plenty of companies like that in Trinidad, and people you could tell them this is coming. Get yourself ready for this. We want to build to this level. We want to tell the private sector, get yourself into renewables, because we're going to be talking to you about solar and wind and other renewables that could power this. I am telling Trinidad and Tobago, the finance for this already exists. In 5 years, you could diversify this economy into shipping turnaround. We need, but in the first 2 years, to move the Port of Spain to Point Lisasta facility 20 times our port. And our port now runs from Movietown to Hyatt. That's the size of our port behind Wrightson. Something 20 times that size down in Point Lisas. We could accomplish two things. We could start to compete with shipping. We could become a shipping hub and a bulk hub for the smaller islands. That means countries that don't import full container loads of stuff, but they want it every month. We could be the country, the island, the facility that imports it in bulk and breaks it and ships it out by smaller vessels to all of those smaller islands, so their supplies could be quick and it could be cheap. That is important. But the second and more important thing, the reason for moving our port, is to create a massive container unstuffing facility. That every container that's coming off the port, you have to come with your trucks and pick up your goods, but the container, we are emptying it on the port. So that anybody who's bringing guns and drugs and arms and ammunition and all the other contraband, that's over. It's no longer the police commissioners, Stephen Williams, Gary Griffith, even McDonald Jacob agreed that the source of all the contraband, the guns and the drugs and the ammunition in this country is the legitimate ports. You could fix that.
So you spoke about the business of Trinidad and Tobago. Is the Progressive Empowerment Party, I'm talking as well doing an interview with you there. So is the Progressive Empowerment Party creating the business of shipping? Is that what we're doing? We're creating the business of shipping, or that's your diversification there? That's what you plan to diversify to? Okay, so we're diversifying into shipping. What about tourism? Because I'll tell you, I am from Laventille, East Morven, and I had to big up my community. I had to make sure that my community is well, properly seen about.
Represented in the plans.
Exactly. But when I'm in office, and when Philip Edward Alexander is a political leader, and one of the things that we want in Laventille East Mover is to develop the Lady on Lookout. Because
no, that's a beautiful idea, and all of those things have to be done. But I want to tell you this, and you could tell Laventille East, Laventille West. No, but you also, when you're on the ground, you tell them that our plan is to move the dump. The Labas. That needs to move.
We see that all the time.
And when we move that out of Port of Spain, we want to replace it with a massive commercial and industrial zone where we could invite companies
One sec.
Taking a break?
No, not a break. Because when I say move the dump up on the Spain, a lot of people ask the question, and put it where?
China built an island. And I want to tell people this. The sea used to lap on the foundation of what is the Red House now. So if you ever walk to the Red House, you know that fire station and that library and all of that is on reclaimed land. In fact, Wrightson Road is named after the engineer Wrightson, who came and reclaimed all of that land. Westmoreland is all reclaimed land, all of the Western Main Road. The Carnage Road, that is now Western Main Road, used to become Mount Coco Road and run behind Westmoreland and up by St. Finbar's Church and up through 4 roads. They had no Westmoreland. That was all swamp and mangrove. And that became, all that is backfill. And I'm telling you this because we in Trinidad and Tobago have been in the business of backfilling since before independence, and we've been in the business of backfilling all the 70s and the 80s. Krishna Bahadur Singh and Westmorelands Limited created that whole Westmorelands by the Sea. Building a sorting facility like Sweden did, building an offshore sorting facility, but our garbage dump of the future, a progressive garbage dump of the future, would be pre-sorted at the level of the home, the business, or the industry that's sending the rubbish anyway. So you'll encourage people to do composting for their own home gardening, because we'll be encouraging them in that, and that generates fuel, that generates gas. But you want to separate harmfuls, batteries and those things, computer parts, phones. You want to separate metals, plastics, glass. You want all that pre-sorted.
We're ready for that.
We're ready for that.
Yeah.
Because the same garbage truck that drives into Fairways and Westmorelands and Laventille and Morva, the same garbage truck that's coming could now be coming on a schedule that you know, and it's being done in the world for the past 40 years, so we know how it's done. That you know that the Monday truck picking up all your clippings, all your cuttings, all your organic material, the Tuesday truck coming for paper and tin, and you could sort that, whatever could sort together, you'd be sending that. So what you would have is the trucks going to different places. All the trucks not going. Right now they go into the dump in the Beetham to a place called the tip. They identify a place, tip all the trucks here, they call it the tip. Tip all the trucks here today. And that's how we do it now. But you should have a day where all the trucks is going in your facility to the plastics center or to the metal center or glass, and they have these big conveyor belts, and you dump the trucks onto the conveyor belts, and then they run through there, and it's sifted and sorted by workers who are working there. So it's not going to be a massive landfill of mess and odor like we have now.
Like we have now, exactly.
Like what is suffering the people who live in the Beetham. And that whole facility, they have to be reclaimed and treated and prepared. And we want to build a massive industrial center right there and invite companies, invite Apple and Samsung and Westinghouse and Levi's. We want to invite companies who manufacture furniture. We want to say to you, for the first 10 years, we will give you factory space. You have to build your own factory. But we'll give you factory space rent-free, natural gas-free, electricity-free, tax-free. But you have to be heavily dependent on employees.
Correct.
It must be, you can't come and set up an automated factory. You have to hire a lot of our people.
Yes.
Because what we want to do is bring enough businesses there that the 30,000 people living across the road have so much opportunity that while they just picture that commercial center and all these factories running and working commercial centers, and picture they have notice boards and at these centers where the vehicles dropping off and taxis dropping off people. We want to do over the highway moving sidewalks. We want to bring people there. It should be easy. You step on and you step off. But imagine you walk into work and you're seeing signs outside Apple, want to be a screen presser, trip presser, come and train with us after work. You could go and train for 3 weeks, and right now you're working for $30 an hour, but if you get certified in 3 weeks, you're working for $45 an hour. You go back home and you tell your wife or your husband, our income just increased by 30%. I mean, think about, we're talking about creating hope and opportunity for people.
Yeah.
That's how you create hope and opportunity for people. The people need, when we talk about in Trinidad at this point, how many, let's talk about in race, how many Indian doctors and how many Indian lawyers there are. And that was because the people who were farmers, they had sense enough to know that they wanted their children to go to university. And they wanted to drill that into their head. That's why we lost a lot of our farmers, because they sent their children, because farming was treated with scant courtesy, and we need to fix that too.
Yes.
But you have to have a vision for people, and you have to give them the opportunity so that the people who are working in information technology and commercial applications in this new environment, their children would grow up in an environment where they would know things that they could take to a next level. That's how it works. What I know, my child do better at, because they know it from small. And they should be in that same facility, education facilities, information technology, couriers and shipping. That's the world, farming. That's the world of the future. information technology engineers, coding, farming, courier services, and shipping. Those are the growth businesses of the future. And you need to have opportunities for our children here. When we talk about shipping, Trinidad, where it is, between North, Central, and South America, and in spitting distance of the Panama Canal, where 90% of all shipping passes, we could provide massive shipping support for container ships that just need to come here and refuel. They need to come here and get food. They need to come here, and if you ever watched the show with Tom Hanks where he was hijacked by the Somalis, what it is that the crew that's running the ship for the past 2 weeks, they come off in Trinidad and they have a new crew that take the ship and continue, because a shipping ship never stops. And I'm just saying all of this, and I try to say it quick because I'm not trying to hijack what you're saying. No, but I'm just saying these things so that people understand that you ask me what could be done in 5 years. All of those things can be done in 5 years. In 5 years, you could call back all of your ambassadors, all of your high commissioners, and create hubs, ambassadorial hubs in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America, and the United Nations, and put people there, delegations, and their job is to sell Trinidad business to the world and to attract joint venture to Trinidad. That's the job, and account for what you're doing with your time.
Correct.
London in London party, and we don't know what he's doing. We don't know who is the American ambassador from Trinidad and what he's doing. We don't know. They don't have no mission, they have to account to nobody. But under a progressive government, they would. This is what we've done. We've gotten mango exports, banana exports, avocado exports, pepper spray. We know that we're trying to control and dominate the pepper spray market, because our scorpion pepper, which is not a hybrid like the other pepper that is a little hotter than ours, they talk about the ghost pepper, but our scorpion pepper grows, the Moruga scorpion pepper is a natural and grows naturally. That broken down to pepper mash, it's $2,500 US a barrel. That's plenty more money than oil and gas per barrel. We should be in the pepper mash business quickly, with a view towards getting into the manufacture of pepper spray devices, because hundreds of millions of those are sold every year. In 9 months, they become obsolete. You have to throw it away and get a new one. That's just that.
It's not just pepper, it's also cocoa, it's everything.
That is a business plan, David, for a country.
If you allow
Yes.
No, but you're talking
everything.
No, but you see, but you asked what we could do in 5 years. But what you need are proper people. We call people ministers. What you need are CEOs, really, of those ministries. Their job must be, and a chief executive officer implies that there are other executive officers. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
People give themselves the title CEO would not understand, without they're the only employee in the company, but they're CEO. To be a chief executive officer, they have to be executive of other executive officers, of which you are the chief.
Yes.
There's a chief manufacturing officer, chief shipping officer, chief financial officer. And of them, as a cabinet, you are the boss. You are the chief executive officer. Your job is to keep all these boats rowing in the same direction, to the vision, to the goal, to the mission of the company or the organization, in this case a ministry. Each of those executive officers have a team, a staff who contributes to that vision. So manufacture, so shipping, so buying, so selling, so marketing. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? That's how it's supposed to operate. And I broke that down in if it's a normal commercial business. But if you were dealing with education and you wanted to do the Progressive Empowerment Party policy to abolish the SEA and build 200 purpose-built schools, because at any given time we have 200,000 students to deal with. But they in all kind of hybrid schools. I mean, St. Mary's College that I went to was built in 1863, and it's literally duct tape and twine holding it together, trying to make it function. QRC was built in 1904, and they're beautiful buildings, but they're not functional schools.
Well, right now is the Spirit of God holding these schools together. I want to take, Director, load up that clip for me, CNC3. The educational sector is in a mess, Mr. Alexander. It's not only in a mess from the state, but also from the children that we're breeding today.
Yeah.
Maybe the quote-unquote hyenas that we're raising today in the wilderness. So, Director, take.
No, but you need to say that you were saying that sarcastically, and that you were quoting Keith Rowley when he said wild alligators and hyenas come out of jungle, and he said those things and put that on these children. The government does not have a plan for them, but we do. Show your clip.
Director.
As school indiscipline rages, one mother has reached her tipping point.
When I watch the video, I see the boy run past me and cuff him in the eye, and he fall down by a car, and the boy constant coughing him up in the head, coughing him up in the head, coughing him up in the head. Nobody even pull off the boy when he was coughing up my child in the head.
Natoya Francis says her son violently attacked after an argument between him and another student escalated. His 17-year-old boy, a pupil of a secondary school in the West, sustained injuries that could now cost him his vision.
The bone that keeping up your eye, that is broken. He gets a hard lash in his eye, so behind the eye is bleeding.
Francis admits that while his son had to be reprimanded in the past for fighting, footage obtained from the school suggests he was not the attacker in the recent incident. In addition to the medication he now has to take, there's a particular pill Natoya finds hard to swallow.
I don't have 45,000 to put out for nobody eye with somebody else child do. And all the child can get is suspended or expelled. And he home happy, and me even studying what can happen now. I studying later on because he was unconscious in the school.
Natoya claims the school's handling of the matter was unsatisfactory. She's also calling for an end to the school violence.
Only go to school to get all the education, and all they want to do is fight. Only want to fight, and only seeing what only putting all their parents in.
CNC3 News is awaiting an update from the Ministry of Education on the matter. Jesse Ramdale, CNC3 News.
School fights, major issue, Ms. Alexander. And thankfully, we have the political leader here because you will be managing everything, obviously with ministers and, us as shadow members of parliament or members of parliament. How do we deal with that issue of school violence?
Well, the same thing we spoke about just now is how a hierarchy works so that you can manage. Because effectively, if you have a manifesto, it's a contract with the country. If you vote us into office, we say we will do these things. So now, as a prime minister, because the word implies prime minister, but you're a minister, your job is to make sure all of these things get done. Because the prime minister is the minister of education, the prime minister is the minister of national security, the prime minister is the minister of finance, the prime minister is the minister of sport, whatever. And he or she acts through the minister of education. So a meeting with the prime minister and the minister of education to get the education sector into some sense of where it wants to be. That is the job here. When we speak about 200 purpose-built schools, we have a plan for how those schools are going to work. We want to abolish the SEA. These children that you see that are going wayward are a function of a failing society. One of our senior members, Akil Camps, he says, and when I talk sometimes I realize how correct he is, that all of our policies work together to make the country better. Our water policy is our flooding policy. It's two sides of the policy. Both solves it. When we create hope and opportunity for the families, a lot of the broken families we have in this country, a lot of the crime we want to stop by moving the port and stop the guns and the drugs, and we want to end the crime in the country and create hope and opportunity. It rebuilds the family. We want to make home ownership a reality. So now the father and the mother have a vested interest of staying together and paying this mortgage because they're creating generation wealth for their children. And you give them hope and opportunity, they will stay the course. If people are frustrated and they have nowhere to turn, they'll walk away and they'll get themselves involved in stupidness. The family will mash up. But a family unit that has hope and opportunity stays together. And in the world, the numbers say that wayward behavior, antisocial behavior dries up when family units are strong. When you make it possible for people to own their homes, and when you zone in the schools because you abolish the SCA and you make every school a prestige school, so you could be proud to be going to school in Woodbrook or Laventille or Caroni, it doesn't matter, because all the schools have to account at the end of the year for the performance of the children and the teachers. And what we try to explain to people is with a grade point average, you set a national average. Let us say the national average is 4.0. So you have at the end of the year, you have a national exam where the children are competing against their last best performance. So they are chasing 4.0. Everybody's chasing 4.0. That is the best. And everybody wants to accomplish that. So it's not like, if right now, with our system, if 20,000 children sit SEA and all 20,000 get 100%, where are you going to put it? You're going to put some 100%ers in NAPS and some 100%ers in Malik. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Okay. Our system is not set up to create or accept performance across the board.
Yeah.
It is deliberately creating that scenario. In our system, it is possible for every child to attain 4.0 because they're not competing with each other. They're competing with a number. Yeah. They're competing with themselves. When you have schools, to the Minister of Education, at the end of this exam, all of the schools will be on a graph. You will see all the schools that did 4.0, and it will taper off to show you the worst or the least performing schools. Mm-hmm. When you go to those schools to find out why they are the worst performing, you could find out from the principal, who will now be able to look at all of the classes under their control and tell you, we have 12 classes in this school and 8 did the national average, but these 4 didn't. So now you know where the problem is. These 4 classes, and you go into those 4 classes and you're talking to these teachers and you're identifying 7 of the children did the national average, these, and this is what. So now you have some children who didn't achieve the national average, and you've identified them, you know who they are. And you could look at their last 2 or 3 terms end of the year, they were doing the national average. This child, why did your average drop? Mm-hmm. You now have, this is where counselors, this is where social development comes in. You talk to the child. You were doing well. What happened here? Mm-hmm. Mommy and daddy break up, you move house, daddy lose the job, you had a breakfast. But you could find out what happened in this child's life to damage their educational progress. So a lot of these children, there is no system to protect and monitor them. Every child that touches the ground in this world is full of love, happiness, hope, and they just want to explore and be their best self. And there are sectors of society where we beat that out of people, we frustrate that out of people, we starve that out of people. They live in turmoil, they live in drama, they live in loss, they live in bad news. Mm-hmm. You contrast and compare that with people who growing up in communities where they have hope and opportunity and extracurricular activities and different ways to enjoy their lives. And these are important things. Mm-hmm.
You spoke about the home, Philip, and you spoke about parents playing a crucial part in their child lives, obviously. When parents, at least in Laventille, East Mover, or anywhere in Port of Spain, Beatam, Laventille, Sealots, the normal communities we call, they work in 24/7. How are you going to deal with that? Is it that they're going to get what you would have spoke about, and I heard you spoke about leisure time, so they work for a certain hour and then they are mandated to go home to spend time with their children? And the next question that I have is, and everybody have it, is how long would it take to implement something like this? And if it is that you get into office tomorrow, how long will it take you to implement this educational policy?
I think the best answer to give you is this. Because it's a process, and because I explained to you the breakdown of the hierarchy and who functions in what role, in what ministry or what department, what we want to have happen in Trinidad is, because a Progressive Empowerment Party government would not have members of parliament be ministers, they have one job, to be member of parliament. So they represent their people, they speak to the legislative agenda, they involve themselves in that debate, they involve themselves in that debate to the legislative agenda, but they have time to spend with their communities. The Minister of Education would have to come before Parliament, before this legislative committee, and all of Parliament, and you could bring in all your ministers and broadcast this publicly. So when you hire a Minister of Education and you say that this is the plan, the Progressive Empowerment Party speaks to timelines, deliverables, measurable metrics, that you could know that we want to build 200 schools and make all of those schools 10-year schools. And we want to start transitioning. We want to transition. We're identifying these schools. You and you are going to be in school together, and we're sending you on there. We're identifying in communities. Those things are important. That is hard work. But that is work that has to happen early in the day. The creation of the facilities and the identifying and the charting which students going to go where. This is the bumpy part of the drive, because here is where you're going to make any mistakes that have to be made. You'll smoothen it out on the long road, but all of the changes, because today I'm zoning your child because you're living in Digger Martin, but you want to move to Marabella, and we have to now deal with that. This child can't be coming from Marabella to Digger Martin. We have to get your child in Marabella. We have to have a system that deals with that. But we have to get our home ownership and our community development up and running simultaneously. What Akim said again, all the policies work together. Because when the parents finally own a home, the place they own the home, the children will be going to school in that community. Because the parents working to educate the children, and they're dealing with paying off their mortgage so they can have equity to pass on to the children. The government, through the parliament, will answer to the country. You will have access on the Ministry of Education website that shows all of the development progress and where the key timelines are, where you should be in 6 months, where you should be in a year, where you should be in a year and 6 months, so that that person comes before the parliament and answers questions. You said, we'll be here. Where are we? Are we before it? Are we after it? Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? And why? And this person has to explain to Parliament, because they have a lot of planning and there's a lot of moving parts. Telling you to move the city that easy. Telling you to move 200,000 children and create a new educational paradigm. Not paradigm. A new educational we are a Minister of Education who said paradigm. To create a new educational paradigm, we have to create a reality now for these children and the new reporting structure.
So the shadow, I keep saying shadow MP, my bad. The Member of Parliament will be responsible for exactly that.
All the members of Parliament will grill, will ask. This will be the people who speak. So the Member of Parliament.
Not Speaker, are they responsible for exactly what you're talking about, creating that new educational system within their constituency?
We have to remember there's what the Progressive Empowerment Party promises to do is to create a constituency board of supervisors. One of them will be an education supervisor. So that person has to be appointed early. And that person has to work with the Member of Parliament, because the Member of Parliament is the CEO of the constituency. Because he has a supervisor for education, supervisor for public health, supervisor for public works, public utilities and security. Those 5 supervisors and the Member of Parliament responsible for the development and the management of the constituency. So the supervisor for education for Marabella will identify how much children from Marabella or San Fernando West or Port of Spain South, how many children here need schooling. So it will identify how many school places we have to build.
Noted. You didn't answer the first question now, so I'm going back to the first question. The home now, the parents at the home, those that are working 8 hours or 2 jobs, so 16 not getting home, some working security, amalgamated as workout people. What about them?
Well, the economy has to be managed from the performance of the lowest in society come up. We have to identify what is the true cost of living in Trinidad. We don't know. We don't know. Inflation is running amok, and the cost of living is all over the place. We have no set units of work value. We know what the unions fight for their employees, but it has nothing to do really with what your output is, and contrasted with global levels. So that a mason, A-class mason, and you can use the top 20 countries that you identify as, I want an average. I want an average of what
they make. You did that with the food prices. And you go to food just now, right? Given what you know now, based off what you know now, based off The fact that, let's say, we imported this bottle of water from the US for 5 cents and you know it's selling in Trinidad for $10. Based off that information, right? What about the family? What about the poor family? What about the single parent family?
We have to declare war on poverty. And the things that create poverty are home ownership, lack of home ownership, lack of access to proper jobs. Job creation has to be job one. A progressive empowerment party government says job creation is job one. Jobs is job one. And anybody who wants a job should be able to get a job, and anybody who has a job should be able to own a home. Minimum wage earners, if they cannot earn a home, then what is own a home? What is your minimum wage predicated on? Yes or no? What's it predicated on? What is your benchmark? You understand this?
Yeah.
When we talk in the parliament and they use terms, I don't even think the parliamentarians understand the terms that they use. If you say that there is a minimum wage, minimum to what? What is this person supposed to be able to do with this wage? And that's a job of government. The job of government.
Majority of the country, majority of youths unemployed, and you know that youths make up almost.
But we're going to generate massive jobs. We're going to generate massive jobs, and within the first 2 years, we plan to have. I mean, China going to be a buzz of activity, but we plan to create all of these job-creating and opportunities in places. We're talking about getting into shipping, getting into agriculture, getting into tourism. We want to create a banking sector that recognizes entrepreneurs and makes credit available. We want to go back to a time when the bank has to pay you interest on your money, has to pay you interest on your deposit. You can't just use your money for free. Can't charge you because your money in the bank. We've come to a mad place. We've moved so far off of what the banking relationship should be. The banking relationship is predicated on, I have $10,000, I'll give it to you. Every year you'll give me $500 on my $10,000 or $1,000 on my $10,000, cool. And you are lending out my $10,000 and you will charge $2,000, $3,000 for it. You keep paying $2,000, I get $1,000, everybody happy. And that in 10 years, and this is what it used to be, every 10 years, any money that you left in the bank would double. That's what it used to be. The interest would double your money. Compound interest would double your money in 10 years. What we have now is in 10 years, your money will be gone.
Gone, completely.
Fees eating up your money. That is insane. We need financial sector regulations that changes that. And if Republic Bank and First Citizens Bank and Royal Bank don't want to do that, they could leave. There are thousands of banks in the world that want to come and earn the billions of dollars that banks earn in Trinidad. We can open that sector to competition. You don't have to fiddle with the credit unions. I keep hearing them talk that. That is a stupid idea. The credit unions serve a purpose. Leave them where they are. Just make sure they are comfortable. But the shareholder are comfortable, and you should encourage that. You should put some kind of oversight on it. But don't play with that, because that's a good safety net. But the actual banking sector, if the actual banking sector had to pay you interest on your money by law, that's set by central bank, they would have to work that money, and they do. They're just eating all the profits now. That's why they can talk about those billions of dollars. Because they're eating all the profits. You're not getting your share. But your money is in the bank. And they're supposed to give you a share of that interest. We will make sure that happens. We will make sure that that happens. The bank's having to work that money. Now you, as a young businessman, and there are so many young business people in this country that cannot get finance or credit to open their business. So they have to sell their soul to somebody else. They go to banks and they give them their whole idea for what they want to create. This is not a country that rewards entrepreneurship.
No.
If Elon Musk or the people who created WhatsApp, if they were in Trinidad, you don't have WhatsApp. If Zuckerberg was a Trinidadian, there would be no Facebook.
Correct. That is true.
Because it took, when Steve Woz and Steve Jobs were meeting in Jobs' father garage and trying to build a computer that became Apple, when they were doing that, it required people, when they went to trade fairs, electronic shows, to show off what, demonstrating their new computer, their personal computer. There were people there who were finance people, who their job is, all right, I'll come and I'll invest that $50,000 with you. Show me what you could do. How much money you need to get this off the ground? That's what the whole idea of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is not just the developers of these ideas. Silicon Valley is all of the finance people who gestated and got those ideas to market. Amazon, the first, Jeff Bezos became the world's first trillionaire. That company, or Amazon, when it was formed, it was a running joke in the computer world that Amazon was going to lose money for the next 15 years. And the people who invested in Amazon were aware that they had to pay all of these costs and all of these salaries for the next 15 years to get Amazon to a place of profitability, to where Jeff Bezos and his wife now competing to see who could give away the most money. But it started somewhere. You as a young businessman, I watch these Masons doing the actual work on Arapita Avenue for Unicom, and it upsets me. That's why I do so many videos on that. People ask me, why are you taking that on so? Because Unicom shouldn't be getting the lion's share of that money. Unicom bring nothing to the table. All Unicom bring to the table is access to government, access to contract, and it locks out people who are doing the actual work. There are plenty of people who go to the bank in this country and tell them, this is my idea. If you finance me, I'll get somewhere. And they tell them their whole idea. And after they leave, the bank loan officer calls somebody and say, hey, here is idea.
Exactly.
There was somebody just come and tell me, you could do that. And that's nastiness. They have no restraint of trade, they have no confidentiality agreement. That person should be able to come back and sue the bank. And the banks are supposed to be able to enforce what their employees do. None of that takes place in Trinidad. This is the wild, wild west. The country is a latrine pit because we have nothing. Nothing at no level works. And if you are a young businessman who is generating success, and I keep wanting to go back to the idea of Michelle Sohan and bakery treats. Michelle Sohan was she's a food scientist. She created all of the flavors, the original dairy bar, remember that? With ice cream all over the country, original dairy bar. She was the person who used to create those flavors, mango and cherry, and all those things that became market standard. That was her job. And she went on to experiment with a whole lot of other things in food. But she became one of the best cake decorators in the world. And she went to France and to Italy and Spain and beat the best in the world. And she told me repeatedly how difficult it is to get finance to develop that business. Anybody else can rip her off. Anybody else can copy her work. Anybody else can hire away her staff. She can't pay them properly because she can't get finance. A business model is predicated on this is the development stage, this is the growth stage, this is the profitability stage. In Trinidad, you expect it to develop, grow, and make profit now. No way in the world that happens. No way. That didn't happen for no company you know. That didn't happen for Heinz. That didn't happen for Starbucks. That didn't happen for TGI Fridays. That didn't happen for Goodyear. It didn't happen for any company that you could name. There would be no Apple if Steve Jobs and Steve Woz wouldn't pay a salary while Apple was losing money. There'd be no Apple. There'd be no Windows. All of these people, and I'm just saying, and I don't want to dwell too long on this, but your banking sector in 2008, when Freddie Mae and Freddie Mac bust in America, and the housing bubble collapsed and damaged the economy, when Obama was running for president against this guy who was, anyway, they were running against George Bush. But it was at the height of the election, and they had to stand down from the election because Congress had to sit for an entire weekend non-stop. And the whole purpose of it was to put credit back in the economy so that the American business community could function, so that jobs could continue and homeowners could pay for their homes and bring the economy back. The American market is built on that credit. In Trinidad, our financial sector is built on credit too, but our banks and our financial institutions, they take all of it to themselves and they control all of it, and all of the profit is theirs. When you deposit a check in a bank, even a certified check, I don't understand why they call it a certified check anymore. You deposit a certified check in the bank that certified the check, they hold on the check for 4 days.
Correct.
So it makes no sense. And when they hold that check, when you look at, all right, it's just my check, what's 4 days interest? But when you look at the whole total, for the day, the week, the month, the year, and you've had hundreds of millions of dollars not in the system that just belong to you for days, weeks, months, years, that you could have done whatever you want with, all of that interest is theirs. It have nothing to do with you, you don't get your share. Trinidad is a mad place for average small people coming up. You want to open a grocery. I mean, when people talk about Dolce and Dolce Finance, all them supermarket and this and that, they say that as a joke. But a lot of it have truth in it. That money laundering, look, FIFA and Jack Warner, name get called with Carlton, I think it's Carlton Mack in JTA, that JTA was laundering FIFA money. That Trinidadian businesses have to be creative in how they get money, and some of it is dirty money, because the banks don't make it easy unless you connected, unless you clinking crystal glasses down the islands. Not for you. That's not for you. And a progressive empowerment party government will make sure to level that play field through financial service regulations. And financial service regulations will make sure your money work for you in the bank. But it will also make sure that there's a level play field, that loans and credit department are blind to things like color, race, and class, religion. Those things are not supposed to matter. Judge the business on the merit of the business. Because if we find that you are engaged in practices that are not level, then you will be fined and penalized, and you could lose your license. We cannot have people not be able to compete in the market because of things like race and religion.
Yeah.
That is insanity. Gender. That is insanity. Your job is not to judge a person's personal life. Your job is to judge this business. Can this business be successful? If it is, that's what credit is for.
Yep.
Yeah? Those things, all of those things have to work together to create jobs. Those people create jobs. When a man goes to a businessman and tell him, I can't get no credit, I can't get no finance for this, finance me to make my ice cream company. And they show them all their secrets and things, and they say, you know what, I'll hire you, come and be my marketing manager, sell me your ice cream company. That's what happened to the guy who was responsible for making KFC in America. And I could tell you that story because he was, when Colonel Sanders was just selling chicken to places, companies, they all had different brands, they were just selling chicken. He created something called Kentucky Fried Chicken. He created that for himself, and he started to open stores. And the company that bought out Colonel Sanders, when they went to talk to him, they bought him out, but they didn't treat him right because they were going to do a global expansion, take advantage of him. He left, and he went to create Wendy's. His name is Dave Thomas. He was responsible for 2 fast food franchises in the world, KFC and Wendy's. And he's a good example of how easily people with vision and drive could be exploited if they don't have access to credit. I don't want to drone on and on about these things.
That's a good story.
But all of these things, I mean, Trinidadians need to know that there are people in this country that know and that care.
Yes.
It can't be that every politician just want, give me a chance and suck it and see. You must talk to your politicians, the politicians that want the job. You must talk to them and ask them. Drill down to the minutiae of what we're talking about here. When we're talking about water and flooding, capture, hold, treat, distribute. Find out through all of the statistical data that we have the last 100 years, where does the water collect and where it collected? Right there. Drill your retention ponds, or your maintenance dams, or whatever you have to put right there, that's where you're storing the water. We should never have any kind of desalination in this country. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy to power it. Desalination is the most expensive water you could make. Powering that system to take salt out of that water. And we should never have that in Trinidad. And that power, I swear to you, I am sure, that is what the people of this country have to pay back TNT. That's what this whole RIC nonsense is. They have a lot of that where they wasted energy and trying to put the bill back on everyday people. But water, solving the problem with water is the easiest of the problems. We could put, I can talk 5 years, we could make water for all a reality in 3. And we only need 3 to lay pipe to people who don't have connectivity. And if you break apart WASA into 41 wassers. 41. So that they all closed off on a loop. So Diego Martin West water, you are sourcing water for Diego Martin West. You're capturing, holding, treating, and distributing it in the closed loop that is Diego Martin West. Now we will have connection valves to the closest constituencies where they overlap. Where Diego Martin West meets another constituency, there'll be closed valves that if that constituency for some reason has no water, that Diego Martin West can lend them while whatever it is being fixed. That will exist. But if you have closed off systems, when you have a problem in the constituency, it is only there. In Trinidad, when the Salcott go down for whatever reason, they have to publish these lists of constituencies that get in water. You are running water under highways to far-flung constituencies, and it shouldn't be so. Because everything in the northern range is perpetually wet. This is the dry season, and Diego Martin is still, they call it the toilet. Every time you flush water there, that Diego Martin always have water. Tucker Valley, the water that they're using for the water bar, that should be providing water to the rest of Diego Martin. We have the ability to fix all the problems. When you're talking to politicians, when politicians come in for your vote, when they come with all their fanciness, tell them put that aside. Let's talk about details. How will you fix this? How will you fix that? Talk about this just now. This could generate money. This could generate income for people who are unemployable. You could put, and it will clean up the environment. You put a 25 cents refund on this at the point of manufacture, at the point of importation, every plastic bottle. So that the manufacturer or the importer is responsible for cleaning up after themselves. So that people, the indigent, homeless, people who just unemployable, okay, scouts, cadets, youth groups, anybody who want to raise some funds. I remember me and my friends when we were small, used to pick avocado and sell it outside Disco Mart and Albert Avenue to make money to buy goats, because we was rich. But I'm saying to you that you could do this here, and this, when you get this back, this could be broken down and used in the construction sector and in roads. That you just shred this, because now they know that adding shredded plastic to reinforced concrete makes it stronger and more flexible. But beads of this in the road silences tire noise, which is 70% of the noise in a road. All of these things, all of it, everything. And I would love an opportunity for any of our members, but I would love for me to debate any other political leader, and I would like that the country, the taxpayers, the citizens should be the ones to ask the question.
Yes, of course.
It shouldn't be planned. Let the taxpayers ask the question. If you have 10 political leaders, every question give a different one first, so it's fair. And give everybody 2 minutes to answer on a microphone, that at the end of 2 minutes, it switches off. So if you don't finish your answer, nobody hearing you. And the system, all of those things can be made to work, and it can be made to work so easily that the country could be better after that for all of us. What we have in Trinidad and Tobago is a bunch of greedy little men and women who understood how to exploit the people of this country, divide them racially, and exploit them politically. The country has been looted, and all of our money. The job that I want more than any other job is to be responsible for a financial audit of this country from September 1st, 1962. And I'd like to find where all of our money went, and I want to go back and get it.
Nice. I don't know what else to add there, Mr. Alexander, other than
thank you for allowing me to come.
Yes.
And I've been saying to myself, this next show going to go far, and I wanted to be. I didn't expect to have this much to say, and I know because you didn't plan it, right? But the next time you will call me, you'll say, we're just talking about one thing.
One thing leads to the next, and all the information that was given.
Yeah.
Wow.
And once again, everything linked together.
Correct.
You answered the question about the children in the school. You answered the question about the parents, the single family household, the nuclear household, everything. You answered all of that. You answered the burning question that many people have, even in my constituency, when are they getting, how long it will take? Because Trinidadians, they didn't want to wait too long.
But they should be frustrated. The politicians have been lying and taking advantage of them for decades, and Trinidadians have every right to not trust politicians, and that's why I talk so much. That's why I talk so much, and you and all of us, and we talk because we want people to hear. And in the beginning, You know, it was hard. The first adopters that came on board, but it was hard for the average person. But repetition breeds success, and people start to hear and they hear and they say, you know, that makes sense. This
Yeah.
that makes sense. This making sense. I watch people who out and out wasn't supporting me. They start saying, you know, I don't agree. Philip wrote today when we spoke about the licensing office, and we said, oh God, come on, in 2023 you're stopping people on the highway. Put a licensing officer in every gas station. That's the easiest, simplest thing to do. Did I just lose my mic?
Satish, you good?
Is this mic? Testing 1, testing 2, testing 3.
Good.
Yeah, no, but when we said that fellow said, he came and said, you know, I'm not your #1 supporter, but this is a brilliant idea. I said, you shouldn't be anybody's supporter.
Yeah.
You should be looking for politicians that want to work
Correct.
to make the country better.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, in 2025, or maybe just before, maybe 2024, 2023, hopefully equal election soon, when I become a member of parliament, and I keep saying shadow, when I become a member of parliament.
Now, you know why you do? Because you all take it so seriously, and I want people to understand, looking on, that the term shadow MP in this party means a lot. In fact, this Saturday we have another training session and another big meeting of the shadow MPs, and it is to identify the role and the responsibility of a shadow MP and to make sure that the community getting representation on the ground from us. We're not even opposition. We're doing this. They're doing this for free. They're doing this at their cost. It is real sacrifice. That is patriotism, and you get to see and judge people who are willing. I watch other political parties go down to ABC, register 3 letters, and then you don't hear from them till election time. But I say about my party on the ground, and we're on the ground through people like you.
Consistently in the eyes.
Consistently.
Come from right there again.
This show and all the things that you're able to say that you all did, I am so impressed. The work that the two of you all do, and I keep talking about that we have a crisis response team, and John Solomon is the head of the crisis response team, and we put in infrastructure in place and policies for our response. But you all are already our chief response team when it comes to people in need, and you all are always there on the ground like first responders. I want to say I'm really proud of you all, and great work.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
I was about
it,
to say
yes.
that given office either 2024 2025 and I become a member of parliament, I would really do hope that you stick to all of the policies that you speak about here. Because
but you could tell them though, you could tell the viewers that
it's not it's not telling them, it's telling me.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could tell them that unlike other political parties, we don't stand on airs here. Nobody is too big to meet you. You don't have to set an appointment.
Yeah.
You could walk in and talk to the political leader. You could walk in and talk to the youth chair. When we get together, everybody talking to each other and saying, hey, I need to do this, I need help with that. What's your position on this? We have access and we understand that it's a lateral, it's a role, it's a team. We say teamwork makes the dream work. What we want more than anything, we may not accomplish everything that we set out to accomplish, but in the first 5 years, we will accomplish so much. We want to launch something called the Quality of Life Index, where Trinidadians could go on a social media platform and tell the country what not working for them, so that the government could see it like they're seeing it. If 77% of the people think roads is problem or the economy is the problem, the minister responsible have a job to bring that number down, to get the people happy. It'll be right there. The cabinet will say, brother, you're winning and losing.
I believe in the policies. I believe that if a progressive empowerment party takes up office, that every single thing that you speak about will be implemented. But standing for the constituency now and for the people in the constituency, if it's not, I will be the first member of parliament attached to the Progressive Empowerment Party that stands up as an independent to disagree.
Absolutely. I want to tell you this. I want to give you my guarantee. I want to identify the 5 or 6 least performing constituencies in the country and work with the members of parliament on them to give them an emergency injection of whatever it takes to get them up to the national level. Whatever we set as the benchmark, we must eradicate homelessness, hunger and poverty in this country in quick time. And we must go into those communities and find people at the level they operating at and work with them to get them to wherever they could generate the quality of life that they deserve. We have to make that happen. We can't abandon people. And I love this saying, you cannot continue to judge the performance of the economy by how well the rich do it.
Yep.
We have to judge the performance of the economy by how well the people at the bottom do it. That's what we have
Agreed. Now, I would employ persons to support the Progressive Empowerment Party. We want finances. We've always spoken about it. We've spoken openly about it. And with Philip Edward Alexander here, he can give you the numbers once again to call if you'd like to donate to the party, if you'd like to spend your money in the party, if you'd like to purchase some t-shirts in the party, whatever you want to do.
merch.
We need the finances. So, Mr.
If you like what you heard, if you like any of what you're hearing, at the end of the day, what we focus on grows. If we as a country, if you look at these two young people here, I just want to use them as an example.
Which ones?
Of course, me.
All of this sacrifice. Look at them, look at their time tonight. This takes effort to set up, to do, and to break down after. They have to prepare for this, and they're doing this constantly. If you like what you're seeing and you're hearing, if you realize that the Progressive Empowerment Party is something different, then help water this seed and make it grow. And the fastest way to do that is through financial support, because this banner behind us costs about $5,000. And there's things like that. Things like that you need to understand. The tablecloth, the chairs, the electricity, lights, the office, the studio, all these things cost money. And we are totally disconnected from the contract mafia. We have no political investors, no political speculators, so that when we get into office and we're changing things and cleaning up things, nobody can tell us, well, you can't do that because we give you money. At the end of the day, the Progressive Empowerment Party wants to belong to the voters, and the voters need to understand that we need money to win the election, to be able to fix the things you want fixed.
Ms. Alexander, thank you so much for coming.
This was so
thank you.
Again, you can't reach
You can't reach, exactly. Of course.
So that Trinidad and Tobago was the political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Mr. Philip Edward Alexander. And once again, I'll describe him as dynamic and a true patriot.
Absolutely.
I mean, 6 long years. In fact, even before that, because as people are saying, well, I'm gonna go there. We'll just end the show. But yeah, that was the political leader, Philip Edward Alexander, the next Prime Minister to the Republic of Trinidad.
Correct.
And Tobago. I can give you that assurance, all right?
Absolutely.
It is 9:20. We went on very long. We'll be back here on Friday once again from 7 to 8 p.m. What's next with both myself, David Welch, as well as Precious Cruikshank.
Thank you guys for tuning in. You've gotten a lot of information, and I hope you let that information stay with you. We gone?
Satish done cut the show already. Satish just ready to go.
Satish.
Oh, go on, Satish.
Wait, Satish, wait. We're going now. Give us 1 more minute. So, guys, take the information that it consume your being, and don't forget that.
Vote for the Progressive
Empowerment Party. That's right.
Vote for
the
Progressive
Empowerment Party.
We have 11, as Philip is saying.
Yeah.
We have all 41.
All 41. And you will get to know each and every one of them. They will be present.
10 more to be announced right after Carnival.
Right after.
Hey.
10 more. And as I always say, Adrian Leon's have a run for money until this.
A big run for his money.
I'd love to put him to debate you. I'd love to see that.
Of course.
It should be.
That's right.
Every constituency, if CNC TV 600 cents, every constituency, every party is sending up candidates. Have 41 debates.
That's right.
Candidates with the political leader debate. Oh God, come on. That's must-see TV.
That is must-see, exactly.
I'd love to debate Adrian Leon.
Let's hear what they think. Let's hear their ideas.
So, Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for being here. David Welch, Chairman, Progressive Empowerment Party.
Precious Cruikshank, Women's Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party.
Now, because the director gone, new director, Satish, just hit tab. Thanks so much. Good night.
Hey. David, you know I cannot move, huh?